We are live. Let's see. All right, audio seems to be good. We are in Brooklyn, New York today, and in the morning, spent some time just checking out interesting stuff. I met a sculptor. That was very interesting. I just watched this interesting art, a display outside this one big warehouse, and then I look into it, and I see massive marble pieces, and I'm like, wait, this is something interesting is happening over here. And then there are like two cars over there. This one old guy comes in, is putting something in his car, and I'm like, hey, can I check it out? And he's like, sure. Uh, and I check it out, and it's basically they're like massive machines which are sculpting these massive marble sculptures, and they look beautiful. He was showing me like how intricate of a design that machine was gonna make. Like what I was seeing right now at the marble was just a massive slab, but it was supposed like it's gonna I'm guessing by tomorrow the machine is gonna work overnight, and the machine is gonna make something super intricate. Like it's wife of a very popular fashion designer, and it's her sculpture. Very interesting. We met the sculptor. I talked to a bunch of just like interesting people today in the morning, just like artists, people into fashion, people into um, just people who are making their restaurants and cafes. That was very interesting. And actually checked out some really nice cafes with really good designs. That was very fun. That was very fun, mainly in the Brooklyn, Williamsburg, Greenpoint area. And then and then I was coming back to my hotel, and I realized and I saw this massive line. And what is this massive line of? This massive line is of Andrew Young's rooftop mixer. I'm like, let's make it happen. This is going to be amazing. And this is the goal now. This is the goal. I want to spend my mornings deep work, research, learning, and my nighttime. This is my ideal. This is how my ideal day I want it to look like. Mornings are deep work, research, mainly learning and research. And then at the end of the day, how do you end your day is by conversations. And these conversations are with it could be any conversation. It could be just like philosophical conversations with random people. It could be just random people and understanding their perspectives of how they see the world and learning about their life and stuff, and just understanding and just broadening my perspective of the world. But then also specifically in the industry. So with this mixer, I was now thrown into this massive space, and this massive space had so many interesting people. I first bumped into this girl who was doing affiliate marketing. Then in the elevator, I met this guy from Goldman Sachs, and he's like, I'm managing money off like some of the richest people over here. And something interesting that people share a lot about is just the fact that when we think about rich people, we think about, oh, CEO of Facebook, CEO of Microsoft, blah, blah, blah. We don't think about the little things that people actually make money in, like simply like the cardboard boxes, the Amazon cardboard boxes. There is someone who is actually supplying them. There's actually someone who is making them in New York, and that guy's making a lot of money. Like a guy who is making like super small, like tiny bolts and nuts and bolts for automobiles, and he's making a shit ton of money. And similarly, like in our last trip to San Diego, I met this one guy who is like there are also businesses that we don't think about. There's a massive business of rats. There's a massive business of rats. And what are these rats? These are the rats that are sold to science research labs for testing, because they need rats. They need different variations of rats. They need rats with some they need different variations. He was talking to me about they have like 2,000 variations of rats. It's just like a SKU, just like how you have a product and it has like different variations and SKUs and different colors, just like you have a car, and the car can have different mods on it and different colors, different what else? Modifications. You got colors. What else? Whatever. Like any other type of like add-ons that you can have. Similarly, you have the same thing for rats. Instead, everything over here is like biological and at a DNA level. So interesting. I met the Goldman Sachs guy, then I met the cybersecurity guy who is basically into auditing AI apps, super smart guy, did grad school at Cornell. And then I bumped into this one person who is running a beauty product line, and we were having a random conversation. She seemed like she is running something big. And when I look into it, I just came back and I looked into it. I'm like, okay, this is a real big company. This is a real big cosmetic company. That is very interesting. Uh, we talked about the Goldman Sachs guy. That one met a guy who was in private uh, not quantum computing. Quant was a quant. I don't think it's quantum computing. It's quant. I think he was a quant. A guy in insurance, a guy who works in DoD, so Department of Defense, for USA, and he was basically a product manager. And now he's looking into getting into startups because he's like, there's so much cool stuff happening in Palantir and Dural, and how uh, they're bringing the startup mindset over here. That was very interesting. I met Kate Cassidy. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but Kate, I just came across her videos, my entire feed. The goal with YouTube is also like, if you want something, if you want something, it's very important to train your YouTube algorithm that, hey, show me more of this. Like, let let your YouTube algorithm work for you. So which means that you just keep searching things. You just keep using different what do we say, terminologies, or yeah, different terms, and just keep triggering your algorithm that, hey, now show me this kind of content. Like, if you want a lot of, let's say, defense tech content, then like start searching for Anduril, Palantir, Peter Thiel, anything like USA defense, DARPA, stuff like that. And then if you actually are interested, if you actually complete videos, like if YouTube is like in the feed, it's recommending like 1 hour long videos, and then you actually watch that entire video end to end at 2x speed, whatever, then YouTube is like, oh, so you actually like this, you actually watch this. Now I'll give you more content. So that is how you are also training. You can also train your algorithm to give you really good content. Because we are doing this French learning, my algorithm has become really what's the right word? Really spread out, not really focused, or not something that I can train really well. But I do want to train it really well, and I'm able to train it really well. So how I found Kate is because I just got into this. I think David Shapiro was the first one, where he was the guy who is talking about the future of humanity if AGI becomes real. And I think I just really love that kind of conversation. He used to make really good slides, but that conversation became boring really soon. Now, and he came from one perspective. Now I'm really curious, like, okay, how do other people think about it? How do other interesting people coming from different backgrounds think about the same thing? And I think that's where Kate just popped in my feed once, and then I thought she had a great story, Coinbase, TikTok, and now she's making these videos. And then today I see this girl, and I'm like, I feel like I've seen you. And then we start talking, and then that was amazing. So I actually met a creator. Who else? I met this one guy who basically made the I'm actually not using this app because I'm not based in New York, but I think there's a travel train train time, train ticket, something like that, train time app like that, which is something valuable and locals are using it. And he was behind that app, so that was pretty cool. What else? I met an AI researcher from Meta, and I was really curious about like how do they spend their time. And I was really digging into it, like, okay, how do you spend your time? What are these AI researchers who are getting paid hundred millions of dollars? How are they getting paid? And how are they, sorry, not how, who are getting paid, how are they spending their time? So he was like, okay, so if from an org perspective, or manager would give like a high level goal, and then every individual will have their own specific goal. And what then they are doing is they are running a bunch of experiments, they are coding, they are reading a bunch of research papers, and then even with research papers, once everybody's reading research papers, and then there's a reading group, and in the reading group, people are then sharing their insights and sharing their learnings. So that was also very interesting, like how things are happening. And then research in general. This is something Elon Musk recently talked about, that research, we don't have any title, or we are removing the title researcher, because you are supposed to be an engineer. You are supposed, like, I think he was talking, give an example of SpaceX, that SpaceX is showing 10 times better research than at any labs you will find. And but what we are really good at is we are not only good at researching and finding these new methods, but also then implementing into the actual product and improving a product. So that is more important than just like going down the path of researching, because just doing research could be a very low accountability role, that you are here just researching, but you are not you're not being held accountable for the results, for the implementation. So that was something very interesting. What else? I met this one person who was sharing, who basically helps founders with stories, something like that. That was interesting. I met this one guy, PM at Microsoft, who's helping Andrew run this event. So that's also interesting perspective because now he gets to meet a lot of people. That was fun. Yeah, 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 very interesting. And let's do a quick break and see the skyline of New York City. All right, this is Empire State Building. Yes, Empire State Building. You see the Chrysler Building. You see the H&M sign, which is Times Square. What is the other one called? I forgot the name of that. There are the tiny towers, the tiny towers, which is Central Park, close to Central Park, 432 Square Park. I think that's what it's called. What else do we see? Yeah, I forgot the name of this one, the slant one. Very interesting. Yeah, the skyline is beautiful. The skyline is beautiful. It was pretty foggy today, so hard to. We didn't get to enjoy the skyline, but this was beautiful. Okay, now we get back. We also talked about Founders Film. Founders Film was something very interesting because the entire concept that our society and culture, our society, the thoughts that people think about is kind of downstream from the movies. Is downstream from the movies, the content that people watch, and what are the what are like the most common content people watch? It's movies. The movies are the mainstream Hollywood movies is something that everybody's watching, and the Palantir CTO Shankar, I believe that's his name, or Shankar Sham, he basically is launching Founders Films, and the concept is that Hollywood has diluted its principles. It's not very American. It's not very patriotic. It is kind of afraid of being very patriotic. So now we are going to make movies that are highly patriotic and that kind of like works in the American favor. And especially when we are building these technologies to make sure that technologies are being built with American principles. So that was also very interesting, a very interesting conversation that popped up with the Goldman Sachs guy. I think something interesting that I wanted to ask him was that, okay, you're working with a lot of rich people. Who is someone that you would like to emulate? Are you meeting someone you would like to emulate? And I think that was a very interesting conversation. I wish I could have talked more with him about that specific aspect. But he did say that, yeah, you come across a lot of like really rich people who are not really happy, and all they are chasing is the next dollar. So that is interesting. And who was it? I think Tim Ferriss. Tim Ferriss mentioned this very interesting thing where sometimes people have to do that because in their life, in general, outside work, they never developed any other skill. And it's like a kid. If a kid grows up, and if you can use this in a positive way or in a negative way, but if as the kid is growing, you are positively reinforcing and you're always telling him that, hey, you're really good at this, you're really good at painting, you're really good at painting, you're really good at painting. And the kid starts now believing in it because every single day he's hearing from people that I'm really good at painting. So he actually puts in more effort into painting. And then he actually does even more painting. And then the kid keeps getting the appreciation. And then there comes a time when all their life revolves and surrounds around painting and they never developed any other skill. So then comes a time when they suddenly feel like, oh shit, I'm not getting the same validation if I, let's say, do skating. So I should stop doing skating because nobody's validating me for that. And I should keep doing painting. So I think that is the kind of concept that Tim Ferriss was talking about, that people never developed any other hobbies, and it's even harder for them if they never developed early on because now the only thing they know where they get validation, where they feel like their contribution or what they think they know is just making money, that they want to now spend all the time making money. So interesting concept, but very interesting conversations in general. I also just wanted to send a thank you message to Andrew. Andrew, this is a great work that you have done, the great work he has done. Uh, Today's event seemed like, I feel like in my last event, I actually saw Andrew. This event, it seems like he fully delegated the event. I saw Jacob Solano, I believe that's his name. He's kind of like the partner of Andrew. And I saw this another guy, Ryan Popov. I believe he's also helping out. So I saw a couple guys who are kind of like entirely managing this event, and there is no one else who is doing it. Sorry, and Andrew is wasn't present on the ground. So hats off to Andrew for making something like this happen fully delegated and making sure that something like this keeps happening. Because I saw today I was walking around this one area and I saw this one bar, and it felt like there were a bunch of people who were like, let's say, first year interns or young new grads of a consulting firm or investment banking or something, and they were all over there in a bar and talking. And I'm like, I would love to just go in there and start talking, but I didn't do it. But then I came over here and it felt like it feels like home. It feels like home because you can actually nerd out with people and talk to them about random things. And there are people who are drinking. There are people who are drinking, but I don't think people are drinking a lot. So it's a really nice balance where people have kind of realized that, okay, this is the place where you come either with a goal or just to learn. Either you could have a goal that, okay, I'm building a startup and I'm going to be raising money, right? I met this one team that is basically doing, if let's say you said that I am going to be spending 4 days in New York, it's going to, and I think something interesting that he said that if you know that you're going to spend 4 days in New York, we are going to look at all the data, available data, your preferences. We are also going to look at your social media to understand your past preferences. And based on that, we'll recommend that what you should do, what activities you should do. And that was interesting. So, and I think his experience, why he started building that, comes from the fact that he's from Mexico. He applied to be a member of a cruise ship. He became a member of a cruise ship. And now with cruise ship, you would randomly randomly, what's the word? You will like drop into like random cities, random villages, cities across while you are doing the cruise ship and you are there for a couple of days. And now you need to know what are the best things to do. I have like 24 hours in this city. It is beautiful. There are like thousands of options. What should I do? Um, and that's how this idea originated for him. For him, yeah, that actually makes sense. That actually makes sense. I feel like there are entrepreneurs. Like traveling is very interesting. Traveling is very interesting. If you look at, I think this is something we can look into, but traveling is very interesting. If you look at the biggest religious leaders, I believe that the leader of Sikhism, Guru Nanak, I believe he traveled a lot. Mahatma Gandhi traveled a lot. A lot of religious leaders, they traveled a lot because they believe that their goal was all about that. Okay, now that we have like a solution to a problem, we need to go on the foot, boots on the ground. We need to go people to people, and yeah, they didn't have Twitter, right? So they had to like go boots on the ground, and they had to go people to people, shake hands, and help them and learn about their stories, help them, and keep refining your messaging. Keep refining your messaging. Make sure that it works with everybody. You have actual real contact with reality, and you are improving. So traveling was a big component. Too much traveling today, if you are just doing it for fun, if you are just doing for novelty to see beautiful things, can wear off quickly. Where suddenly you start looking at beautiful things, and very quickly you are like, oh, now that I've seen this, I don't know. I mean, it's done. Like there was just like 5 minute, like 5 seconds of anticipation. I saw it, 5 seconds of pleasure, and now this is gone. What do I do next? So that was very interesting. So, okay, where are we going with this? I don't know. But anyways, traveling is very interesting because it's not that traveling is bad. Uh, Too much traveling uh, just to look at touristy spots can quickly wear off. Traveling to bring a sense of adventure back in your life and just to bring exposing yourself to new random ideas, just to freshen up your perspective, that is really good. And also it's really important that while you are traveling, to maintain some sort of structure that, okay, while you are traveling, you still want to make sure that you are working, still want to make sure that you're taking care of your health, still want to make sure that there are some good decisions that you're making in terms of like what you are eating, where you are eating, who are the kind of people you are meeting, and yeah, what do you value? What do you value? Do you want to value something that is not a fleeting pleasure? Do you want to value something that gives you a sense of progress, sense of momentum? Um, yeah, that is very interesting. But yeah, all right. What are we looking into? Let's see. Who are some people known to travel a lot and have a big impact? Hmm. I don't know if that's the right question, but let's see. Let's see. Traveling is interesting. All right. Some people historically and recently known for traveling extensively and having a significant impact through their journeys. Oh, it's like a stock photo. Yeah, I also feel like there's some people who are explorers and some people who are optimizers. And I believe that I sometimes feel extremely lucky. I feel extremely lucky that I live in Vancouver and I was surrounded by extremely sorry, it's not was. I am surrounded by people who are optimizers of health. I'm surrounded by some ultra athletes, and what they prosper and flourish on is just systems. They flourish on these following these very strict systems that they love and that they just keep doing day in, day out, and that helps them build their body, build muscle, get better, and achieve their goals. And their goals are mainly like numbers, right? Like they want to hit a certain number of weight, they want to hit a certain number for running, whether in miles, whether in timing, let's say with swimming, with biking, stuff like that, right? So they always want to hit these numbers. And that is good. I like it. I like it. I think there was a phase when I did that. But I just found that I'm not naturally that person, that I'm not naturally an optimizer. So that can feel very, uh, let's say, limiting to me because I still have this sense of exploration inside me that I want to do. And again, this is a balance where you have to understand that, okay, how do I make sure that I can keep traveling, I can keep that sense of exploration alive while also taking care of my health? So this is when you have to start implementing systems, right? That, hey, make sure that you are always living somewhere where you have access to the gym. So you can wake up, you can get your breakfast, you can get to the gym, you can work, and then you can get out and then you can do your thing. So these kind of things are also really important. That slow traveling is also important. If you just travel and you don't work, that is something that I've just realized that that doesn't work for me, and very similar for other, I think, people that I have found, which is like just going to the beach and doing nothing sounds like a very terrible, like very traumatizing for them because it's like, what do I do now? So you either need to be working on something, you need to be moving, you need to be having a good conversation. So these are some interesting things, like some sort of exercising courage. You're talking to people, you are learning about something, you are learning about something that you actually want to learn, uh, and you are moving, movement. That gives a sense of energy. So very interesting. I'm just sharing random ideas that are coming to my mind. It's been 20 minutes of just sharing random ideas. But yeah, I think traveling is really important to just open up your perspective and open up how you think about the world. This is this is very interesting. But the problem is you also keep forgetting. So you gotta keep bringing it back. Again, balance between making sure you're in one place, you have a home base, you are in a routine, that routine is helping you build, versus then traveling, sense of exploration, discovery, bringing excitement back into your life, and opening yourself to new perspectives that could change the way how you think. Yeah. Brooklyn in general is also really cool, really cool. Like it's like very artsy. It feels like yeah, there's so much. Yeah, when I look at Brooklyn and I go back to Vancouver, Vancouver seems very bland to me because in Brooklyn it seems like everybody is doing an art project. Everything seems like an art project. Like a gelato shop seems like an art project. All these bars look like an art project. They are an art project for someone. And the interesting thing is like you have somehow figured out a way to subsidize this art. Now, either you are really good at business or you just have like unlimited capital and you are losing money on the business. But yeah, you have figured out a way to make art. I like there are like these super old buildings that are converted into apartments and you can look them from outside and these apartments, they look amazing. They're like flowers and books and guitars and like posters. It looks beautiful and shelves. couches. Yeah, you can see apartments from outside. And you're like, okay, this is beautiful. Like somebody actually put in the work in making this a nice apartment. Um, and this like combination, and I love this combination of like super old buildings, but inside you go and it's very hippie and very nice. I think that is amazing. That is amazing. Very modern. Like Brooklyn, yeah, Brooklyn has figured some things out, and that keeps bringing me back over here. Okay. Historic and legendary travelers with global impact. Bessie Coleman. We also talked about Jim Rogers today, and Jim Rogers came up a lot because a lot of people wanted to know that, okay, what is something interesting that I was looking into? And we literally looking at Jim Rogers, and I'm like, okay, yeah. We came across this person, Jim Rogers, that not many people would come across. Then we came across his story that how he made his money from hedge funds in New York, early 30s, pretty much retired. And then he's like, okay, what's next? So then he's like, okay, I don't think I can understand the world. I can understand the real world sitting in front of Bloomberg Terminal. I have to go on the ground. I have to talk to people, and I have to talk to people that no, most people don't talk to, but they know a lot about how the world works because they have kind of seen the ugly and the worst of people. So then he bikes around 100 plus countries. First time he's biking around 100 plus countries, and then he wrote the book Investment Biker. Then he, with his wife, he drives this custom Mercedes across 100 plus countries again, and he writes the book Adventure Capitalist. And while he's doing that, he's building his hypotheses on, okay, what should we invest in? What should we invest in? Should we invest in land? I think he also came up with we should invest in land and water and things that are actually like but physical things that actually will improve lives and that actually matter. I forgot what was the exact phrasing. And then he talks about investing in immature markets. Like we're talking in 2000s where most of the country's internet wasn't internet back then. Internet, like I don't know how he did that. Like he didn't have internet, he didn't have cell phones. Uh, yeah, I don't know how he did that, but that's crazy. Um, yeah, early 90s, that was crazy. What else? He just became extremely bullish on China, and he was like fully betting on China. I think it seems like recently he's also just like fully bearish on US stocks, and I feel like he sold all his US stocks. That was interesting. He then moved to Singapore. He is getting his daughters to learn Chinese or Mandarin because he believes that it is that important to learn Mandarin because China is going to become big. So very interesting, very interesting. Like it's like when you're an investor, when you love your work, kind of, let's say, when you love your work and your work becomes your life, your work becomes play for you, and your work becomes life, and that is how you see the world, and you're doing your own thing. It's like your work blends into your personal life blends into your work. And now, if through work you found this hypothesis, you came up with this, you have a really high conviction about this one thing that future belongs to China, you it's gonna every everything is gonna be downstream of that. Every small decision in your life is gonna be downstream of the fact that future belongs to China. So that means that when you have your daughters, you are gonna make sure that your daughters know English and China and Mandarin. So your daughters are built for the future now because they know what's happening in the West, they know what's happening in China. That is very interesting. That is very interesting. And I'm also really I would be curious, like the fact that Jim Rogers believed, and he moved his house. He moved to Singapore. He sold all his US stocks. So these are some big things that, I'm also curious, like, what are the other small things? Like, is he using like Chinese products like home? Is he driving Chinese cars? Is he driving BYD? Like, what are the personal decisions that are being affected because of this hypothesis, because of this high conviction? Actually, let's ask comment. Okay. Jim Rogers has high conviction that future belongs to China. What are some personal decisions he took in his life that are downstream of this Hypothesis. By the way, I love using the word downstream. This is like a very, I love this. Whoa, what was that? That was, I read something, YouTube video. China will dominate again. Wow. This is really cool. Nomad Capital has got Jim Rogers on the podcast. Reason for investing in countries like Uzbekistan. Okay, this is really cool. I will first love to see over here. Okay. Moved his family to Asia, Singapore. Sold his mansion in New York, where he had lived for over 30 years and more. 30 years mansion. Okay. Moved his family to Singapore. He wanted his children to be close to the center of what he saw as the world's future economic growth. Singapore was chosen specifically so his children could more easily learn Chinese and be immersed in Asian culture without contending with issues like China's air pollution. Very interesting. Very interesting. So he understands that China does have some problems like the air pollution. Okay. Children's education, learning Mandarin. Billy stated that the most important investment he's made in is encouraging his daughters to learn Mandarin from a young age. He believes fluency in Chinese is a key to thriving in the 21st century. Daughters have become proficient Mandarin speakers and have participated in Chinese cultural events. Heavy investment in Chinese assets over 2 decades. Went long on Chinese B shares, H shares, Hong Kong stocks, and China-rated stocks listed in Singapore and the US. Increased his positions in assets in 99, 2005, 8, 13, and claims not to have sold any of them, consistently reiterating his stance that 21st century belongs to China. Financial accounts in China. Proactive personal step of opening a B shares account in Shanghai to better access and invest directly in Chinese markets. Public advocacy and life choices. Anyone who wants to succeed in the future should learn about the Chinese market, emphasizes investing in sectors that align with Chinese government policy, such as agriculture, infrastructure, healthcare, railways, and financial services. A bull in China and made frequent media appearances where he broadcasts his thesis that China will be a global leader again and shares how his life choices are downstream of this conviction. Wow. Importance of having multiple passports. China's opening to the world, potential to compete with American companies, navigating the market fluctuations, real estate bubble, AI revolution investment strategy, societal stability, economic potential of Middle Eastern markets. Jim Rogers is drinking from a cup, Aladdin cup. Very interesting. Keeps like yeah, he doesn't want to make specific statements, so he says, I don't know. AI revolutions, investment strategy. Okay. Very interesting. Very interesting. Let's look over here quickly. And what do we have? Bessie Coleman, first African American and Native American woman to earn international pilot license. Working immense various inspired generations of by performing flight shows that welcome Black audiences during the era of segregation. Ranulph Fiennes, world's greatest living explorer, he was the first to circumnavigate the globe along its polar axis, led over marine expeditions, and completed feats like 7 marathons on 7 continents in 7 days, raising millions of charity. Wow. 7 marathons, 7 continents, 7 days, raising millions for charity. Wow. Wow. You need so much recovery. You're doing a marathon every single day. So first of all, you need to be good at running marathon back to back to back for 7 days. And now you're also traveling and you want to make sure that you're recovered. That is crazy. Okay, that is crazy. I'm guessing he was being flown by private jets. Like the moment he's like done running the marathon, he's just like in his Uber goes to the private jet. He's just sleeping. He's just eating food. He's just recovering. Wow. He's a masseuse who's like making sure that every yeah, muscles are acting good. Okay. Sherpa holds the Guinness World Record for the most Mount Everest summits by women with 10 ascents. Achieve what was long considered possible only for men, inspiring women in mountaineering. Amelia Earhart fly solo across the Atlantic Ocean across the US, advocate for women's rights, broke many barriers in aviation, mysterious disappearance amplified a legend, legacy of pushing human limits. Jacques Yves Cousteau, ocean exploration, inventor of the aqua lung, influential environmentalist, led groundbreaking underwater expeditions and advocated for marine conservation, changing the world's view of the oceans. Letty Bly, found around the world in 70 days in 1800s, beating the fictional record of around the world in 80 days. Social reforms for asylums and prisons. Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay summit Mount Everest 53. Wow, 53. Icons of adventure whose achievement inspired global admiration for mountain exploration. Charles Lindbergh, non-stop flyer across the Atlantic, changing the landscape of aviation and opening the modern era of long-distance air travel. Freya Stark, trailblazing explorer and travel writer who mapped uncharted Middle Eastern regions and authored 24 travel books fostering greater cross-cultural understanding. Modern contemporary. Sofia Vergara. Okay. Actress who became a Latin American celebrity through her travel show, inspiring many with her love of world exploration and cross-cultural experience. Angelina Jolie, global humanitarian UN Goodwill Ambassador known for travel to war and disaster zones, advocate for refugees and marginalized communities. Harry Mitsidis, world's most traveled man, he has visited every country on earth, some more than once, and founded Nomad Mania to help aspiring travelers. So there is a guy who has traveled every single country. Beyonce and family, extensive global travel and philanthropy that inspire many fans to connect with the world. Andrew McCarthy, turned travel writer, named Travel Journalist of the Year. His writing and memoirs inspire readers to embrace adventure as personal growth. Andrew McCarthy. Hmm. Hmm. Okay, very interesting. Mario Rigby, boat and kayaked across Africa, promoting eco-friendly travel and supporting community initiatives along his route. He actively works to broaden representation in adventure travel. Mukul Bhatia, dozens of countries using his work to highlight social issues and advocate for responsible travel. Advocate for responsible travel. That is very important, very important. Marco Polo, Venetian explorer to Asia. Ibn Battuta, Moroccan scholar, traveled widely across Africa, Middle East, and Asia. 49. Magellan, Portuguese explorer, led first circumnavigation of the earth. Zhuangzang, Buddhist monk who journeyed from China to India and back for study. Roald Amundsen, first to the South Pole, navigated the Northwest Passage. What is the Northwest Passage? So fast. So fast. Perplexity is so fast. Northwest Passage. Okay, so this is the Northwest Passage. What I'm really curious about is hmm, say about oh, embracing adventure. An acclaimed travel writer has spoken and written extensively about the value of embracing adventure. The further I go, the closer to me I get. The further I go, closer to me I get. This is so interesting, so cheesy. I was talking to someone and I'm like, yeah, traveling, the most interesting that happens when traveling is that you kind of feel like you are losing yourself. You no, not losing yourself. You feel lost. And feeling lost is the way to find yourself. Feeling lost is the way to find yourself. The further I go, the closer to me I get. Impermanence is not what I crave and never has been. That I have traveled in order to feel at home in myself is a paradox that has helped me to create that feeling while in many familiar surroundings I desire feeling of at homeness everywhere. Wow. Okay. I'll have to read again to understand what he means, but something similar that I have read, I've heard from like a comedian, is Indian comedian who is like a philosopher, Zakir Khan. He said that after childhood, when you are a child, your home feels like home. Your home is your home. But after you become an adult, you become home for other people. You become home for other people. All right. Impermanence is not what I crave and never has been. That I have traveled in order to feel at home in myself is a paradox that has helped me to create that feeling while in my familiar surroundings I desire a feeling of homeness everywhere. Longest way home. 500-mile walk changed his life. Though we travel the world over to find the beautiful, we must carry it with us or we find it not. The farther I travel, the closer I get to myself. Self-discovery of authenticity believes that stepping outside the familiar brings us back to our true selves. Travel does this. It creates space that allows thoughts and memories to intrude and assert themselves with impunity. Smells and sights, the quality of light, the honk of a horn can all act as touchstones when least expected. Adventure is a means to gain perspective and recollection, illustrating how travel fosters personal growth and introspection. Travel does this. It creates space that allows thoughts and memories to intrude and assert themselves with impunity. Smells and sights, the quality of light, the honk of a horn can all act as touchstones when least expected. On pushing comfort zones. Okay, this one's gonna. I don't understand it, but it's very poetic. It's very poetic. I don't understand it, but it's very poetic. Travel does this. It creates space that allows thoughts and memories to intrude and assert themselves with impunity. Smells and sights, the quality of light, the honk of a horn can all act as touchstones when least expected. On pushing comfort zone. The best adventures. are the ones that challenge you and push you out of your comfort zone. The best adventures are the ones that challenge you and push you out of your comfort zone. Crucial catalyst for growth, learning, and fulfillment, encouraging people to embrace risk and uncertainty for a richer life. McCarthy views adventure as a crucial catalyst for growth, learning, and fulfillment, encouraging people to embrace risk and uncertainty for a richer life. On living without fear, life is too short to be consumed by fear. He urges individuals to step out of their comfort zones, embrace the unknown, and take risk. By doing so, one can truly live life to the fullest and experience all the remarkable opportunities that lie ahead. On solitude and vulnerability. When traveling alone, McCarthy says we become intimate with yourself and the place, and that's a very different experience. He notes that travel can help us overcome fears and become more open to connections and serendipity. That is true. When traveling alone, McCarthy says with we become intimate with yourself and the place, and that's a very different experience. He knows that travel can help us overcome fears and become more open to connections and serendipity. Adventure as a vehicle for self-exploration and genuine connection with the world and oneself encourages others to seek out unfamiliar experiences bravely, seeing adventure not as an escape, but as an encounter with life and themselves head on along the road. Challenge you and push you out of your comfort zone. Crucial catalyst for growth, learning, and fulfillment, encouraging people to embrace risk and uncertainty for a richer life. Challenge you and push you out of your comfort zone. You use adventure as a crucial catalyst for growth, learning, and fulfillment, and encouraging people to embrace risk and uncertainty for a richer life. Hey, this is good. Andrew McCarthy. Create space that allows thoughts and memories to intrude. That's good. What adventures did he go on? He saw the images. Personal transformation as a travel writer. Climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. Trekked Africa's highest peak, a journey he described as both physically challenging and spiritually revealing. Exploring the Peruvian Amazon. Venture deeper into the Amazon, encountering its vibrant natural wonders and reflecting on solitude and self-discovery. Walking the Camino de Santiago. In his book Walking Sam, McCarthy walked the famed 500-mile pilgrimage across Spain with his son, exploring the relationship and personal growth through the journey. Amazonian riverboat expeditions. He has traveled by riverboat through the dense jungles of South America, immersing himself in the wild and unpredictable environment. Amazonian riverboat expeditions. He has traveled by riverboat through the dense jungles of South America, immersing himself in the wild and unpredictable environment. Costa Rican rainforests. His adventures have also taken him through the lush, biodiverse rainforest of Costa Rica. Patagonia. What about exploring the dramatic, wind-swept landscapes of Patagonia in South America, a region known for its remoteness and beauty? The Azores, the Silk Road, in Burin, Ireland. He's traveled from the volcanic isles of the Azores to the ancient routes of the Silk Road and often mentions the rocky Burin in Ireland as one of his favorite places. Sudan and lesser known destinations, preferring places deemed not interesting. McCarthy has found beauty and hospitality in countries like Sudan, challenging Western preconceptions and pushing the boundaries of its comfort zone. Half his life in Ireland, drawn by adventure and serendipity, he now spends significant time in Ireland, a place that began with a casual invitation and ended up transforming his life. Hmm. I met someone very interesting from Ireland. I met this girl from Ireland. She was sitting beside me in the plane, and it was very interesting. She comes from this very tiny village, and it's so interesting. Like all her friends, all her Irish friends have moved to not all, but like a lot of her friends have moved outside, but she still stays over there. and it's a very small village, and there are cows and there are dogs, and it's like tiny village, and it's like 40 minutes away from the main city where she goes for work. So interesting. Personal, spiritual, and relationship adventures. Many of his journeys are as much about personal growth and spiritual discovery as about the physical destinations. This theme is central in his memoirs, The Longest Way Home and Walking with Sam, which recount adventures with self, family, and the road. Not just about visiting places, but about seeking transformative experiences, pushing fears aside, and connecting with people and cultures around the world. I am really curious. How did Ireland end up transforming his life? So fast, so fast. Hey, I hope all these things are right because I love this perplexity. Whatever you're doing, really good job. Ireland transformed Andrew McCarthy's life in several ways: personal connection and self-discovery. McCarthy's experience in Ireland, especially during difficult times like the economic downturn, opened him up to authentic hospitality and warmth. Staying with local families, sharing meals, and living simply gave him a sense of connection and belonging he didn't expect. These moments allowed him to reflect on himself and life more deeply as he felt accepted and at home. A shift in perspective, witnessing Ireland's transformation from rags to riches and then facing economic hardship again. McCarthy found beauty not just in prosperity, but in resilience and community roots. He noticed that as materialism faded, the Irish spirit of camaraderie and warmth revived, which inspired him and changed his outlook on what truly matters in life. Beauty not just in prosperity, but in resilience and community roots. He noticed that as materialism faded, the Irish spirit of camaraderie and warmth revived, which inspired him and changed his outlook on what truly matters in life. Roots and identity. Through exploring his ancestry and spending significant time in Ireland, his wife is Irish. McCarthy realized how discovering his heritage changed his relationship with the country and gave him a new sense of identity, belonging, and perspective on his own journey. Storytelling and magic in Ireland, McCarthy found inspiration in the culture's art of storytelling and the presence of magic roads and legends, embracing Irish sayings, landscape myths, and a tradition of making meaning from hardship. He began telling stories that felt more genuine and transformative, both for himself and his audience. Inspiration for writing, his experiences in Ireland, finding meaning in small towns, quiet pubs, connection to nature, and grappling with change greatly influenced his transformation into a travel writer, how he tells stories about adventure and discovery. Finding meaning in small towns, quiet pubs, connection to nature, and grappling with change greatly influenced his transformation into a travel writer and how he tells stories about adventure and discovery. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay. Wow, we hit 59 minutes, and this just felt good. This felt really good. This felt really good. Yeah, there's this interesting balance between should I do the stream in the morning before I go out and explore and experience the city, experience people. I had a lot of interesting conversations today, like with this one person who works in an art studio. I had this interesting conversation with a model, like today while grabbing smoothie. Yeah, so do you, and a lot of interesting conversations tonight uh, at the mixer. It's beautiful. Okay, 4, 5, 6, 7.